Welcome to John Essex Sports Channel once again for League One predictions, and it's week 10. Yeah, we're really rattling through these game weeks, aren't we? And it's Wimbledon versus Wycombe where we're going to go first, and let's have a look at Wimbledon. Lose, win. Winning run started with a 2-1 win at home to Rotherham United, of course. To be honest, they came back. Didn't play very well at the beginning. Then they Rotherham let them in and they played really quite decent football. Not brilliant, but decent football. Probably should have won that by about 3-1, to be honest. Crystal Palace 3-1 home win in the Virtue Trophy and a 2-1 away win at Doncaster. With Wycombe, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag those last three, really, hasn't it? Draw, lose, win. Strange thing is they won at Mansfield, won against Mansfield at home 2-0. Then they lost away to Peterborough 2-1. But Peterborough slightly improving, haven't they? And then they won at home to Northampton Town. Now, we look at the Wimbledon game. Wimbledon's last game, 2-1 win away at Doncaster. Doncaster played some really good football there. Doncaster actually, I thought, played some stylish passing. I enjoyed the passing by Doncaster. I thought it was pretty slick. But Doncaster only had one shot on target and it went in the net. Wimbledon, 4 shots on target and 2 in the net. I still think Wimbledon's play, although they won this game, they will be thinking that how did we win it? Because they didn't play all that well for me. Doncaster will be kicking themselves they didn't win that one. They really did play the better football. For Wycombe Wanderers last time out, Northampton Town, and it was just have a quick look. Wycombe 2, Northampton 0. And looking at that game, all I could see was Wycombe. Northampton were just pretty poor for me. They didn't really get on the ball, didn't really have any decent shots on target. Certainly had a couple at target, but pretty wayward. Wycombe really controlled this game rather well for me, although the passing, again, not quite as slick as what I expect from a Wycombe side. But on that game, it was good enough to win the game. And probably a correct result, 2-0 was the score. Probably 2-0, 2-1 would have been very fair. What are you saying? Just actually saying a draw for this one. A lot of people with perhaps Wycombe just about pulling it out. We see Wycombe are in 18th and Wimbledon are in 9th. But if you look at who they've been playing, a poor Rotherham side, for instance, you can't get past the fact that this Wimbledon side are certainly beatable. And I look at the fact that it's 0 draws, 5 wins, 4 defeats. This side, I think, will be finding it a little bit tougher, although the Wycombe side, like I said, it's a little bit up and down. Should really have got more out of Peterborough, but unfortunately, like I said, they hit Peterborough just at the point when they were doing well. So what we're seeing, 1-1, 0-0, 2-1 to Wimbledon, and a 2-1 to Wimbledon and 1-0 to Wycombe. I'm actually going to go with Wimbledon 0, Wycombe 1. I think that this may be the time that Wycombe just turn this one round. Yep, a bit of a manager bounce here, perhaps. I think so. Let's call that one 1-0 to Wycombe, and we'll move on. So next we go to Orient versus Stevenage, and Orient lose, win, draw. Lose last time out, a 2-1 away defeat to Reading, which we'll look at in a minute. Stevenage Borough, win, lose, win, draw, win. Last time out, a 2-1 home win to Exeter. Let's have a look at the Orient-Reading game, or the Reading-Orient game, of course. Reading played really well here. I mean, they even missed a sitter, I think, didn't they? That sitter near the end was, how did he not even get that one on target? 2-1 win to Reading, and realistically, this should have been 3 or slightly more than that, because they really did play rather well. So that one, 2-1, was probably an understatement, and I think Orient really didn't get anywhere near what I thought was to a really decent League One style of play there at all. Stevenage ran that. Stevenage, on the other hand, they played Exeter, and they did completely different. They did run this game. They did control it. But once again, a little bit like Reading against Leyton Orient, Stevenage winning that one 2-1, probably should have won it by a lot more because Exeter were pretty poor. I don't even know how they managed to get one goal. A lot of their shots were mishit. You see them sort of hit the ball too high and it bounces off the floor and straight up, or hitting it too low and it flies up. There was a lot of miscues from the Exeter side when they get to that front end. They did get it up to the front, but not quite enough. As far as the Reading Orient game went as stats, I think that was actually quite even. And if you look at the stats, you'll be thinking, wow, that should have been a draw. But actually, like I said, the Reading team really did deserve that one. And with the Stevenage Exeter game, were the stats the right way around there? Yeah, I mean, the stats were showing that Exeter were indeed shooting. But when you look at the style of shots and the miscues, you can realise that this is one of those games where you can't look at the stats whatsoever. So what are people saying? You're saying, mainly saying a Stevenage win by 1 or 2 goals, or perhaps Orient just sneaking a rare sort of 0-0 stroke 1-1. I'm going to go with one or two of you, and I go with Leyton Orient 0 and Stevenage 2, and we'll guess, as we say, move on to the next one. And we move on to Barnsley versus Port Vale. Barnsley last time out against Blackpool, and I thought that was a pretty decent game, really. Blackpool winning it on 90 plus 8 minutes. I thought Barnsley's style and the way they attacked it and the actual game plan was pretty slick. I thought Barnsley's playing was better. I thought Barnsley's passing was a fair bit better. In fact, the stats show that the Barnsley's passing was indeed better. Just looking at the game, though, you could tell that it was. Blackpool's just a little bit long ballish, trying to get it over the top, trying to get it in there. But it did work. 90 plus 8 minutes. Jordan Brown, they get the winner 1-0 to Blackpool. Will Barnsley be upset? Well, I don't think they can really be upset. They did play the better football. Perhaps a 1-1 draw would have been a little bit more appropriate. And after that, after about 90 minutes, I think Barnsley really did try and get that winner, trying to push up just that little bit, and then all of a sudden they get hit by a double whammy and bang, Blackpool are completely opposite side and they're winning. And they won the game. Port Vale, of course. Port Vale last time out against Mansfield. 2-1 winners. The sending off, don't really see enough of it, but it certainly doesn't look like a red card. I would probably give him a yellow. Is it an open chance on goal? You know, there's nothing between him and goal, but there's too many players running from the right side of him backwards for it to be a clear and obvious chance on goal. So I wouldn't be giving it a red card. I'd probably be giving him a yellow one. The penalty, oh my lord, how on earth do you give a penalty for that? That was it was a bit of a body check, but that's what you're going to get, isn't it? I mean, a defender's going to try and push you out the way and make sure he stands his ground. That's what happened, and it was on the edge of the outside of the box, far away from the goal. So was it an open opportunity? If you'd have left him, would it have been a clear shot on goal? Not quite. Not at all. In fact, so Mansfield lost this one, and they'll be really aggrieved that they lost that one. They actually, I think, played relatively well after about half time. I think they certainly started to sort of play a little bit better and pass a little bit better. And right near the end, after the 90 minutes, actually, I thought again, Mansfield might just about get the winner, and they nearly did once, didn't they? They nearly scored a winner right near the end, and then of course Port Vale, again another double whammy, came back and won it instead of Mansfield trying to win it. Wrong scoreline, yeah. Wrong way round, yes. I think that that Mansfield were fighting the referee in this one. I'd have to agree with Roy. They seemed to be playing an extra man. And I don't mean by the loss of Sweeney, although that would mean that they're playing an extra two men. So can't really take Port Vale's win quite with as much vigour as it looks. Barnsley win, lose, win, lose against Blackpool there. Better football, not quite doing it on the day. Port Vale win, lose, win, lose, win. So the same stats over 6 games. However, Port Vale for me are slightly improving. They really are. The luck hadn't been in with them had they for the first few games. Port Vale are actually starting to get better. Barnsley in 6th, Port Vale in 19th. I think Barnsley here will be wanting to make amends for just not. I mean, I'm sorry, but at least 2 or 3 times their key striker, Barnsley, where on earth was his finishing foot? It was miles into the sky, or hugely whipped to the right-hand side on one of them. He usually gets it on target, and he just played a pretty awful game of football. The Barnsley man there. We thought their key striker would be at least be able to get 1 or 2 of those chances during that game. What are you saying? You're saying 3, or sorry, you're saying lots of goals here, and I must admit there are lots of goals in both these sides. The wins that these guys have got, 4 each: 1-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 for the Barnsley, and for Port Vale their 4 wins are 1-0, 4-1, 2-0 and 2-1. So there's plenty of goals in both these sides. You see 3 1s, 3 2s. That's interesting. Most of them going to Barnsley. There are the odd person who thinks that Port Vale might win this one 2-1. However, I'm going to go with that score. I think that it's going to be Barnsley 3, Port Vale 2. And we'll move on to the next one, which is Bradford versus Blackpool. And what do we see with the Bradford-Blackpool game? Well, we see Bradford with win, lose, win. Aren't they doing well? Absolutely storming this league. First in the league. And Cardiff, who thought that... Blackpool, who thought that they were... we know we're going to talk about now. Blackpool, who we know are finding it a little bit tough in this league at the minute, in 22nd position. We would have been thinking this was going to be completely the opposite way round before the season started, remember. Do like and subscribe. Comment down below. Give me your thoughts on your thoughts for the weekend. In League One, Bradford played Cardiff last time out, 3-1 winners. Bradford were brilliant. I mean, the third goal, that pass across the back of the back of the box there, absolutely sublime and absolutely perfectly weighted. That was the sort of pass that a professional footballer does, isn't it? And without thinking, and it seemed to be without thinking, just a look up, pass, and there was no sort of a couple of seconds. Hang on, how much weight do I put on it? It was just there. He is, hit it to him, and absolutely brilliant. That was one you can watch again and again and again. If you want the goal of the month, I would say that was it. Mainly because it wasn't just the goal; it was the pass up to it. The pass was sublime. The hit was sublime. Great goal there. Bradford really deserving that win. Bit of a mishmash for the Cardiff goal. But, they didn't play too badly, I don't think, Cardiff. Not really. And they'll be a little bit surprised they didn't come out with a draw. But the abilities of that side, when they had the ball... Look, Bradford's passing usually wasn't actually that good. And actually, Cardiff's passing was slightly better than Bradford's. But when Bradford were on the ball, which was a fair amount of time, they were more clinical with it, and that edge, like that third goal, just shone through. 3-1 to Bradford. Was that a right result? Yeah, I just said 2-1, 2-0 would have been a pretty good result there. We've already looked at the Blackpool's last game. Blackpool won at home to Barnsley. Now Barnsley with a better play, with a better style. Not play. Blackpool with a more of a pizzazz about them, managed to battle their way through this one. Do we go with a battling performance from Blackpool, or do we go for that classy, if not classy style of Bradford, but that didn't quite have the passing all the way through the game? It wasn't quite a consistent passing game. What are you saying? 2-0 to Bradford, 2-1 to Bradford, 2-1 to Blackpool. That's interesting. I think that the only time that we've got more than one goal for Blackpool, lose, draw, lose, win, was 5-0 home win in the Virtue Trophy against Barrow. I think actually we lost to them, didn't we? And I think we did. And Barnsley 1-0 last time. I think that Bradford just have their tails up here, and they're really on the go. I think that you might be. All these 2s and 1s and 0s. I'm actually going to go a little bit away from you. Look, I'm actually going to go with Bradford 3, Blackpool 0. I think they're at home. This side is stonking, and I think that they will be making sure that continues. Now, Burton versus Plymouth next, and I must admit, I got one of the results last week correct, and I got some flack for saying this result. Burton first, though. Burton lose, win, lose, draw. Burton last time out 0-0 against Huddersfield. Huddersfield would have really thought they would have sunk Burton, but they didn't. And Burton actually provided a good, solid, dogged performance here. It was it was more like a League Two game. It was just tough, hard, battling work. Burton made Huddersfield really play hard for this point, and likewise Huddersfield made a little bit more of this than they should have done, and allowed Burton to play the dogged hard football that they seem to be playing. Huddersfield 70% of the game. 12 shots against Burton's 9, 5 shots on target against Burton's 3. But this, and how many times do we have to hit the woodwork? I think they did hit the woodwork a couple of times, didn't they? But Huddersfield really should have been making the most of this game. They'll be disappointed that they were drawn into Burton's style of play. 0-0, a perfect result, absolutely. The game that I got right was Plymouth 0, Peterborough 1. Now, you look at this game and you actually expected Plymouth to be very, very much on top here. Lots of passing, lots of possession. Their luck hasn't always been in this season, so you can see them shooting loads of times but not getting many on target. This is what we expected of that Plymouth performance, forgetting who they were playing. Peterborough, they've been playing really well, and they've been defending doggedly, a little bit like Burton, and who we were talking about just now. But Peterborough were just just a step up again. They've managed to improve a little bit. They deserved this 1-0 win. They, for me, played the better football quite for a longer period. Now, I know that sounds rather odd because Plymouth hit the bar and literally had open nets to hit at, didn't they? And they hit the bar instead. About 3 times, was it? It hit the top bar, hit the ground and then bounced out. But they were just one-offs for me. And although they had twice as many shots at target, they realistically they had about the same number on target as Peterborough, and Peterborough just managed to play the style of football they needed to play, and they kept the game plan in the head. They didn't panic. Plymouth did, and I'm afraid I got it right. And although all that flack I got from the Plymouth fans, and I did get 1 or 2 Peterborough fans saying, I think you're right, I think we can win this one. You bloody well did. Well done, Peterborough. I think that was a really dogged, determined performance. So now we go up against Burton versus Plymouth. And there's an interesting look here because we've got Burton at home now. Burton played a dogged, determined performance against Huddersfield last time out, and Huddersfield played probably about as good a football as Plymouth did on that weekend. Pretty good, pretty slick, and they should have got more of those shots that were so damn close. On target for one start. So I'm thinking that this is going to be almost the same sort of game for Burton, but at home. Could they nick a goal? Could they win it 1-0? They could very well do this. Plymouth Argyle, after this draw, lose, win, and then lose. 2-3 against away to Luton, they won. That was a good game. Now you're thinking, can they do something like that, or will they do a Peterborough just panic and hit out trying to get it on target, hitting the bar, hitting the woodwork? I can see this happening. I think this is going to be 1-0, right? I think this is going to be 1-0, and to be honest, I can't see which way round it's going to be. I really can't. I think this could be a 50-50. I think I'm going to annoy some of my subscribers, and I really am sorry, but I have to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Burton 1, Plymouth 0. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go with the home team. They played some pretty damn dogged performance there, and I just think that they might be one step ahead of their last game, 0-0 against Huddersfield. Please don't hate me for it, Plymouth fans. I know I've got a few subscribers, and I know I've got quite a few. Do tell me what you think is the problem, and can they turn this one to their advantage? The fact that they played so well but didn't get they're just not getting enough on target. And it's simple as that. Can they change quickly, or will it take a couple of games to get that far? I'm interested. Do like and subscribe. Plymouth fans, tell me, can they do it quickly, or will it take a few games? Well, we go Exeter versus Huddersfield next, and of course Exeter lose, win, lose, 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 lose against Huddersfield. Draw, lose, win, win, lose, draw. Huddersfield are in 5th, Exeter in 16th, and I tell you what, Exeter, they're playing pretty decent. So far, they've been playing a lot better than what some people thought they would do. I think they're playing about where I expected them after the first game or two. Exeter last time out, Stevenage 2-1 and defeat, and like we said earlier, they didn't really look to me like they were going to get anything out of this game. The Stevenage side really sort of controlled it just well enough, and I say just well enough. Exeter had more shots at target, only 1 or 2. It was 17 shots to Stevenage, 12 to Exeter. It's just that Exeter's were a little bit wry and a little bit bouncy and all over the place. That was my problem with that one. Burton, the 0-0 draw with Burton for Huddersfield last time out, like we've just said, was an absolute nightmare for them. They got dragged down into this and pulled to play the way that Burton wanted them to play. We know that this Huddersfield side can play well. It's a case of will they in this game. If this had been last week, I'd have been saying I think this could be 0-0. This could absolutely be 0-0. But I can't see Huddersfield doing the same again. I think that Huddersfield will find it difficult to do the same again because I don't think the manager would let them. Better performances, more consistent. Exeter really do need to think before they shoot. Great, look, they're having great opportunities and they're getting forward, and they're probably happy with where they are in the league because there's a battle down there where we are, and they don't want to be in that. But I can see this one being Exeter 0. Huddersfield 1. Most of you are going with a 2-0 or 1-0 win to Huddersfield, so I'm going to follow you guys and go with a 1-0 win to Huddersfield. Nobody actually saying 0-0, which is quite interesting because I thought that a few of you might go with this Burton thing and pull it towards the Exeter game, because although they can shoot quite often, it's been that last game was a bit awry, wasn't it? And we'll move on to the next game, which is Luton Town versus Doncaster. Now, this is going to be a humdinger. So we go with Luton versus Doncaster. Luton Town win, lose, win, lose in 11th place. Doncaster doing so well. They were right up there at the top, weren't they? They're in 7th at the minute. Win, lose. Last 2 games, lost against Wigan away, 3-0, and then last time out lost against Wimbledon 2-1. Let's just say that Luton-Lincoln City, I should watch that, and you can watch it for ages, can't you? Lincoln City absolutely flattened Luton Town in this game. In the second half, Luton Town did come back and they did try and get back into their game. That goal just about sealed a way back, didn't it? But Lincoln just didn't stop, did they? They just didn't stop. They managed to get through that defence far too easy for me. Luton gave too much space to Lincoln, and that's where they paid for it. Doncaster last time out played great football. They played some really good passing football, a little bit like Luton, but probably exactly the same as Luton. They ended up losing the game to a side that were dogged, determined, and just managed to get more goals than them, losing 2-1 at home to Wimbledon. We can't talk, we did as well. So this is 2 sides that just seem to have lost their way, isn't it? And I think what are you saying? 1-0 to Luton, 1-0 to Doncaster, 1-1 draw, basically a mixture of all the lot there, and I think you're probably about right. This is 2 sides that just can play some really great football. They're up there at the top, in the top half, for a reason. They're close to each other. Their style, really good passing, really good play making, but not quite having that finish. And being a little bit open at the back on occasions, but not very often, is about right for both of them. I'm going to go with Luton 1, Doncaster 1, and we'll move on to the next game, which is the fated game. It's my side against Mansfield. It's Mansfield versus Rotherham. Here we go, Roy. Well, the Mansfield-Rotherham game, Mansfield, a lose, a draw, lose, draw, lose last time out. Port Vale 2-1 defeat. That really was a game of Mansfield versus Port Vale and the referee. On the other hand, Rotherham last time out, well, it was lose, win, lose. Last time out, 1-0 defeat to Stockport County, and of course the referee also playing for Stockport County here. So two sides that played the opposition and the referee. The first shot on goal by Stockport was in fact offside, but if you look at it, the linesman kept his flag down. Rotherham equalised, great goal there, but it wasn't offside, even though it was classed as offside. I can't see how that was offside whatsoever. Realistically, Stockport were a class above for me. They really could have won this 2-0, well, 2-1, as it should have been for me, but it was 1-0, probably the right way round, but the referee really did create a rod for his own back there. That was a dreadful refereeing performance, much like it was for the Mansfield-Port Vale game. Two games where where Mansfield really did quite well, but just were just stripped out by this Port Vale side that just had the run of the green and the run of the referee. Both these teams have been playing pretty poorly. Both of them are pretty naff at the minute, and I really can't see where Rotherham are going to get the goals from. We'll see. We know, however, that Mansfield can score, and they can suddenly put up a 45-minute performance of the game. Can they do it here? I don't know. I'm going to go with Mansfield 1, Rotherham United 1. Sit on the fence, I think, this one, Roy. Sorry about it. Tell me what you think. Everybody, do like, subscribe, and give me your comments down below. So, Northampton versus Bolton. Let's have a look. Northampton lose, win, lose. Last time out, Wycombe Wanderers, of course, that 2-0 defeat. Wycombe 2, Northampton 0. Northampton can't have any complaints about this. They didn't really. They played some decent football, but Wycombe were just better. There's just no complaints about it, is there? The Bolton game though, Bolton draw, win, draw, win, doing really well, and they were just outsmarting Wigan at every time. They played their typical, once they've got the ball, sprint down the other end, and they were just playing from the back, and they were just absolutely phenomenal, weren't they? Bolton just ripped apart Wigan, and some of Wigan's defending was absolutely atrocious, wasn't it? I mean, that last fourth goal, how on earth, what did he think he was doing? He miskicked it, went straight up in the air, that was it was in the back of the net. It was just beggars belief for me, I'm afraid. Although Wigan did get shots, only one on target, but they did get shots. So the Bolton defence did allow them into the final third, but they were just too good to. And when they did get it off them in that final third, straight up the other end and straight in the net, it's Bolton in 10th versus Wigan in 12th. And Wigan have been higher than this. They have actually been playing some good football. So it's a little bit odd that they seem to have just slightly pulled back a little bit in the last few games, don't they? So who do we think is going to win, Northampton or Bolton? Northampton have had a resurgence, haven't they? They've been playing some better football in these last few games. Indeed, the last 4 games, win, lose. Decent mid-table performances against a Bolton side that I'm afraid can put this on. But they, 1-1, 1-0 win to Rotherham, 3-0 win to, and you sort of see that they're not getting the massive scores regularly, but they are getting some pretty decent scores along the way. 3-0 win against Wimbledon, 1-1, and then 4-1 to Wigan. So ones and then with the last 6 games, 2 games have had more than they've scored more than one. 3-0 against Wimbledon and 4-1 against Wigan. They do play better at home, and so that is one thing to consider. What are you saying? 2-0 to Bolton, 2-0, 3-0 to Bolton. I'm actually going to go. I'm actually going to go for a special. I'm going to play my joker, and I'm going to go Northampton 0, Bolton 4. And comment down below. Am I mad? Well, we'll soon find out. Peterborough versus Lincoln City next. Lincoln are in 3rd. Yeah, they've been racking up those points quite well. Only 1 defeat so far. And they're away to Peterborough, who are 23rd now, off the bottom, having started to play some decent football. Now 7 points and 2 wins now. Doing really, really well. They're in 23rd position, and I mean it when I say they're playing really well. They are actually starting to do some pretty decent football. Yeah, okay, not top of the league, but it is actually some pretty dogged and determined football that we're seeing. Draw, lose, win against Wycombe 2-1 at home, and win against Plymouth 1-0 away. Against Lincoln City, win, draw, win. And we can see that Lincoln, last time out, they played absolutely stonkingly against Luton Town. I think they ripped them apart. It could have been so much more. Luton weren't bad. They weren't a bad side, but the Lincoln side was absolutely phenomenal. Peterborough just dogged, determined, making sure that all those shots that Plymouth were going to get, absolutely were going to get, weren't going to get in the back of the net, and that was how it ended. So we've got a Peterborough side that's got it's really excited here. They managed to get in that Plymouth end 10 times to have a lay off a shot. 4 of them were actually on target and 1 in the back of the net. Plymouth, of course, 5 shots on target, none in the net. So you're thinking this Peterborough side is now starting to believe in itself, but it's playing a Lincoln side for me that is absolutely staunch, and I can see this being nothing else that a Lincoln City win, I'm afraid. I think Peterborough have got their tails in the air. They will get a goal here. But I just think that Lincoln City have played such a good football. There's not a hope. Is it going to be 2-1, 3-1? They're the scores you're saying. 2-1, 2-0, 3-1. I'm going to go... I'm not touching whether 2-1 or 3-1, to be honest. Peterborough 1... Lincoln 2. We're making a mind up. There we are. We've made our mind up. 2-1 to Lincoln City. And then we'll go to Stockport versus Reading next. Now, Stockport County. Let's have a look. Lose, draw, win. Lose, draw, win. Win 1-0 against Rotherham, but they played with the advantage of having the referee on their side. We won't go into that game anymore. That was a pretty abysmal refereeing performance. Did they deserve to win? Yes, but did they? Rotherham should have got that goal. And the first shot should have been offside, and it wasn't called offside. And it's but at the other end we get one in the net and it's offside when it isn't. So you've got to have consistency when you're referee. Didn't with this referee. Absolutely appalling. Reading versus Leyton Orient. And Reading, really, for me, they played some good football. They ran this game against Leyton Orient very, very nicely. Look, they allowed Leyton Orient 71% of possession, and they allowed them to have 17 shots, 6 on target, 1 in the net. But, Reading were just a little bit more clinical. Only 12 shots, 6 on target, 2 in the net. I actually thought that all of Reading's shots were a little bit better, classier, and more likely to go in the net. The Orient ones were a little bit poorly hit, the Orient ones, for me, although it does say, they had the same number of shots on target. This is where statistics don't really hit it for me. The Reading side was better than the Orient side, deserved the win. I look at this Stockport County side and I look at that goalkeeper, and a lot of the Stockport County fans were telling us before the game, their goalkeeper is a bit naff. He really can throw a blinder now and again, and I think that we have to think about that, because he wasn't tested. Apart from he wasn't tested. No. And had Rotherham tested them, we might have been able to see whether he was any good. But that defence shores up in front of him very, very nicely and stops too many attacks on him. The Plymouth side, of course, 3 games ago, it was Plymouth 4, Stockport 2, and that did show how bad he can be. So I'm a little bit worried about this side, because I think Reading can do better. I think they will do better. I think they're about to start to turn the cogs a little bit after having, the last 3 games, 3-2 defeat Swindon, 3-2 defeat Barnsley, and a 2-1 win Orient. I think that Reading are starting to turn this one, and I'm going to go for Stockport 1, Reading 2. Final game, of course, is Wigan versus Cardiff City, and Wigan versus Cardiff. Look at the league positions. Cardiff in 4th, Wigan in 12th. Now, Wigan win, draw, lose, draw, win, and then a lose against Bolton. And then Cardiff win, draw, win, defeat against Bradford. Let's just say, I didn't say it when we were looking at the Bradford team, but Cardiff actually had 8 people in that defensive line when Bradford scored that first goal. If you've got 8 people in there, make sure that they're all defending, not standing around there looking like donkeys in the middle of a grass field. The defence just stayed stationary, let them straight in and score a goal. 8, I was counting it, 8 people. I replayed it 2 or 3 times. There are 8 people there. There are 8 people in their defence, and it still goes in the net. Look, Bradford's defence is really good. I know that they've had a lot of injuries, and I know that they've got 3 main defenders still there, but they're bloody good defenders. If you read them off, they're damn good ones. And then they started to try and bring down the wingers back to give a possible 5 across the back if they need it. That came from a Bradford supporter as well, by the way. So it's going to be an interesting game. Wigan, a side that's pretty mixed as far as performances at the minute, they'll be wanting to get back after that really poor defensive performance against Bolton. That was atrocious. That 4th goal they let in was one of the worst League One defensive mistakes I've seen. Really was. Cardiff, on the other hand, they'll feel a little bit aggrieved. They didn't. I think 3-1 against Bradford, the defeat there. That was a little bit harsh, really, wasn't it? Cardiff didn't play bad. They really didn't play bad. And they haven't been playing bad up to that point. I think Wigan, it's going to be a tough one, this one. What are you saying? 2-0, 2-1 to Cardiff, 2-1 to Cardiff. Nobody going with a Wigan win. In fact, nobody's going with a draw. I suppose it's a case of will they actually managed to get a goal. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Wigan 0, Cardiff 3. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you'll like and subscribe, and you'll come and join me on my live stream on Saturday. But that's all for League One Week 10 predictions. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.